I don't have my chat on today, Jan.
Ah, okay. Well, if I
I
see
don't.
something good, I'll
It's just a
call it
distraction
out.
for me anyway.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total irritation.
When there's two people, it's
Yeah.
easier, but when you're having to,
Yeah. If you see something,
yeah.
just okay.
Good morning, chatters.
So, Christian, what I'm doing right here is I'm looking at the audio right beneath the icon of Roy Masters on the Spaces tab here. You can see when audio is coming in, and I could see it with Jan. David, give me some audio.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah, see, it's not moving somehow with David. Jan, speak.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Okay.
Test 1 2.
You see how you can see the little host audio waveform there? And it's not with David for some reason. And this has been an issue. I don't know. Let's take a look.
I wonder if they can hear David on the chat. Curiously.
Well, they can on Rumble.
Okay.
Let's see here. Do that. No. Okay, David, go ahead and say something.
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, your audio is not going to Spaces for some reason, which makes it a one-sided conversation on there.
Well, that would be weird.
Yeah, and so for the time being, let's just go ahead and kill Spaces for the day. It's not working.
Causing a problem.
I don't want to be working on it in the middle of the program. So yeah, just go ahead and click on that. And we'll just.
Yep, they're hearing him fine on Rumble, so that's good.
Yeah. It's going through in the output. It's just not making it to Spaces. I'm going to have to figure out what the skinny is on that.
All right. So I guess we're ready to rumble.
Yeah, you guys are good to go whenever.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome. It is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me today. David Masters. Jan, welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be here, David. Thank you.
So the question of the day is, have you heard any of the talk about the Bad Bunny performance? It's mainly the only thing anybody's talking about besides the Nancy Guthrie abduction. But the Bad Bunny thing brought to mind a topic that my dad was very adamant about, and that is that the problem of relationships between the sexes is that it's not so much that it's the woman who is at fault, but weak men. And so this whole idea of the exploitation of women, I think at the core of that is the weak men syndrome. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, exploitation definitely goes both ways. I think that women, yes, being the weaker sex, I will say that, physically, more emotional minded, not saying that that is a bad thing because God designed it that way. But I will say that over many years, well, boy, it's hard to say this, but if you look at, some of the cultures like Muslim and many, many years ago, women were very exploited and still are today.
Oh, the Orient is famous for that,
right.
The geisha girls and so on.
So the domination of women. Now you come to America where there's freedom and there's laws, and women have been trained and empowered to become exploiters themselves. So it goes both ways. Even back in the scriptures, Delilah was used to take down Samson. So each of the sexes has their ability to abuse what they have toward the other.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in modern culture, you want to get somebody's attention, you take a scantily clad female. It's not men that are the attention grabbers, unless, of course, they're doing something kind of forbidden. And a lot of the conversation about what was presented at the Super Bowl halftime show with this Bad Bunny guy. First of all, apparently he's a very low talent person. But the second part of it is it's kind of like Cardi B. It's all sexual and salacious. And so I'd like to play a clip here of my dad talking about female domination. Now, it's not necessarily the topic, and you'll see how it starts out. Here it comes.
Can actually see themselves doing this to men. A weak man is not a good man. He fails in his duty to say to Eve, put the fruit down. Stop nagging me. No, you can't have your way. Get between the children. You don't talk to my kids that way. It's my job. I'm the disciplinarian around here. Thank you. Stand aside. So therefore, through your resentments and hostilities, you've actually become a weak man like your father, because your father let your mother dominate you. And so every woman ever since has been, dominated you, and you've never had much of a life. So now what you have is the nature of the female, because you haven't got a direction of your own. You subject yourself to the women, hoping that they will love you like your mother, should have, but she can't help but dominate you.
Wow. So the nature, see, this is the problem, because when we talk about the insanity of culture and the dark side of culture, it is not feminine, but it's feminine in nature. And so this is why so many women show up as a target of people, and especially when we look at life from a Christian perspective, we have a tendency to see the female component more than the male, but the male component, the Bad Bunnies of the world, are out there wiggling and giggling and acting like females. And that's part of the attention grab side of it. And then they add to that the sexualization of it. And so, I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this.
Well, it's interesting because, women know how to seduce and use what they have if they want to. But like I mentioned last week about Bruce Jenner,
yes,
he decided to go ahead and take that role on as well because it gets more attention. So, and you said something about it's usually women that get the attention unless it's a man doing something
like a woman.
But here's the funny thing. It's the bad boys who were always like the center of attention, right? They would grab attention, the bad boys, and therefore his name is Bad Bunny, right? So it's this whole thing of being bad is cool. And, like Madonna, it's like, how bad and how deep can I reach? How much shock value can I create? It's like the badder you are, the more attention you got. It's just a weird thing in this fallen world that being bad seems to be lifted up.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay. Because being bad has all the seeds of disobedience built into it. As opposed to, from a Christian perspective, obedience to to the higher self. So the bad side of things somehow validates you. Look at, if you watch these people, it's almost like they are virtue signaling their lack of virtue. Look at me. I'm not restrained by the things that you people who have a conscience are. So it's an escape mechanism designed to help people throw off the shackles of conscience. And this is all it's about. Go ahead.
Pure rebellion.
Yeah.
Pure rebellion. And it's like pounding my chest. I don't have to obey the rules or live by any. I make my own rules. So that is the world we live in, and it's starting to backfire because apparently the TPUSA halftime show took a huge chunk out of the halftime show of Bad Bunny. And did you know that he wiped all of his social media accounts, David?
I did. Yeah, I saw that.
So,
yeah. Because of the criticism against him.
Yeah,
and the criticism in general on his.
But here's the thing: it's also the fact that the ratings weren't there.
Yeah.
See, so that's a great sign. Whether or not, there's some people that are saying that the TPUSA halftime show had some stuff in it that wasn't good. Blah blah blah. Complain. But the fact of the matter is, they offered an alternative to the perverse, usually demonic halftime show, and they got a large crowd. I saw
25 million people plus watched.
I think it was Mike Jones.
130 million people watched the Super Bowl.
Right.
So 25 million is a chunk. It's a big chunk.
What an amazing thing, David. There never has been an alternative to that halftime show. That was a brilliant idea.
It really was.
Brilliant idea.
It really was. Yeah.
So I think it was Mike Jones posted a little clip of a guy that was in a bar watching watching the halftime show. And the owner of the bar decided to play the alternative halftime show. And this guy gets his camera and he goes, "Why aren't you playing the halftime show?" He says, "I am playing. This is the halftime show." He says, "Why aren't you? I paid to come here to get the full Super Bowl experience." And the guy said, "You know what? The majority of my customers wanted the other one. So, if you don't like it, you can leave." Basically.
Well, here's another point, and we got 20 seconds. But the other point is nobody cares about the halftime show. And so, and the other thing that I heard a very interesting overview by Glenn Beck yesterday, explaining how Jay-Z, who is married to Beyonce, he's in charge of the halftime show. So we got to take a quick break.
I didn't know that.
He has complete control over what is presented.
Whoa.
Quick break here. FHU.com is where you find out more about what we are into. We'll be right back. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting, and it makes perfect sense now that we know what we know about him.
Mm-hmm.
We know how he graduated to having that power, don't we? Through Epstein.
Could it be
Satan? That's right.
Let's continue. 3, 2, 1. And welcome back. Yes, we are talking about, I know that this is, it's kind of the slop of the day. It's like the pig food, just throw it in there. But, the pigs are getting more particular about the kind of slop that they allow, and especially in the mind.
Right.
And I was making the point, and you said something to me, Jan, which I'll just make the point again. It's Jay-Z, who is married to Beyonce, who is responsible for the content of the halftime shows. And this is why they put up all of these alternative musicians who are really not very talented people. I don't see that Lady Gaga or Beyonce does much more than, salacious stuff and wiggling and jiggling.
It's
and that's
the
kind of the end
people,
of it.
David. It's the ones who are willing to sell out. The ones who will sell their soul, they get top billing. That's just the way it is. And they get it because they agree to, what's it called when you preach? To preach the message.
They peddle the dark side.
Yes, they are the preachers of the dark side, so they get top billing.
Yeah. I do have another clip here, which goes on a little bit deeper into this whole idea of the female implanted identity. And again, you can't do the same thing with men as you do with women. And that's a really, really interesting thing to talk about, because you can show a man's body, a handsome, very well-built man, But a part of that is that's artificial as well. I mean, the bodybuilder look,
mhm.
it's actually artificial. It's kind of phenomenal to look at these physiques of these men, but they don't have the seduction power of a woman. Let me play this clip.
She can't help but dominate you.
To have a lot of fights with my mother.
But you would always lose that fight. See, and so that eventually you'd give in to your mother because you weren't experienced enough to know how to go fight the good
or
fight.
I'd walk out frustrated.
That's right. And so this is all this, but the nature of your mom is in you because the shadow of your father was weak, what your father represented. So actually you've got more hate for your father than your mother. And so your mother looms large in your life, but in the background though, it's the resentment towards your weak father that made you hate him and try to fight the fight yourself, and you lose. And you're losing in a big way, but I think the good Lord's looking out for you.
I want to go back to Bruce Jenner.
Okay.
Because his father was a military guy. And what Roy just said is that he hated his father more than his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So the identification, see, this whole thing about identity,
Yeah.
like you can identify if you think you're a woman or a man or whatever, the identity, weaponization of identity. But that's the original weaponization. The original
Yes.
weaponization is the identity weapons. Your thoughts. Go ahead.
This world needs real men and real women. And the truth is that the identities were lost in the garden. The true identity of man, once he hearkened to the voice of his wife, who was speaking rebellion, once he hearkened to rebellion, he lost his footing. He lost his nature that came from the Father. So now he became subject to that spirit of rebellion that came through the woman because she hearkened to that voice from the yeah.
But the rebellion, it must have come in the form of a seduction, which is, look, I ate of the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
It was delicious and it didn't kill me.
Right.
This is a form of seduction. It's
Right.
not outright. You know, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And this is the honey trap
Mm-hmm.
of, look at me. I got everything I ever wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And think about this. When you're growing up and you're kind of, you're innocent and there's these things out in the world lurking to get you, right? And it's usually a friend that goes, "Wow, I smoked this joint. It's so awesome." And they sell it, right? And you're thinking, "Well, this is my friend. He's just offering me something." But it's always something. There's something in the forbidden that we are drawn to. So it is what it is, and it came the way it came. But the problem with men in the world, they can't go to the woman for their nature. They have to go directly to the source and bring to the relationship what only the Father can give them. Once they do that, now there can be balance. There can be balance, because if everybody's trying to go to the woman, where's God? Where is God in it? Even if she's a good woman. I mean, yes, a good woman can also have the Holy Spirit and can also do very, very good things, but the man has got to seek that relationship with God.
So interestingly, the Hebrew, by the way, I'm just reading from the Bible Hub. It says that Genesis 3:20 states that Adam named his wife Eve. I have never read that before. I have to confess. I have never read that.
Yes, he
Genesis
named everything.
3:20.
That's right.
And then this is really interesting. It means the name Eve would mean the mother of all living, but the Hebrew name of Eve is commonly understood to mean life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at it objectively, in a fallen state, a weak man looks at a wiggling form of a woman, and that represents life to him.
An
And
alternate source. Yeah.
yes, an alternate source of life. Isn't that interesting, though?
Yeah, I remember reading about the Hebrew name of Eve, and I think it says he named her that because she was going to be the mother of all the living. Okay.
Yeah.
And, once you start looking into the Hebrew meanings,
Yes.
everything makes so much more sense.
Everything makes sense.
Because the names reflected what they were. It's like when you hear Eve, you don't think life. But if you were Hebrew and you heard the name, you would know exactly what it meant. So here's the interesting thing. I see we're coming up on a break. But some people say, if Adam and Eve hadn't fallen, we would have never had children. I say, no. He named her that even before they fell, because that was going to be her purpose either way.
Yeah, no, look, the devil has no power to create, literally. He can only take what's there and rearrange, which is what this whole trance movement is. It's all about rearranging. There's no creation going on. Destruction is the devil's creation, so I'm told.
Right.
Quick break here, FHU.com. Find out more about the Be Still and No exercise. Don't let the corruption tear you down. Okay. Any comments on the chat right now you want to mention?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out, and then
Okay.
I hadn't read them right now.
In 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back. We're talking about, in a roundabout way, from an enlightened perspective, the Bad Bunny performance at the Super Bowl halftime. Now, I call it the Super Bowl because I don't care about this. I am not a mainstream sports guy. Sports is okay. It's great. It helps people come together. They know the rules. That's why people love, sports, because the rules are clear. There's a clear winner, a clear loser. But, all the hype, the story you told about the guy in the bar was really great, because what the average person wants is they only want the game. They don't want the shame injected into it by agendas.
Right. But some people, they want that experience.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what he was fighting for. Now, there is an interesting comment here from Kahuna Al. He says, I watched TPUSA. Kid Rock made a huge proclamation for Jesus. Bad boy gone good. So that's great, because in the beginning, Kid Rock was kind of singing his old music. Yeah. And then it kind of started to be a transition.
It veered over.
It veered over, and then he's saying I think it was meant to be a transition from bad to good. Yeah. And I love that they put themselves out there and tried to do something different.
Well, look at Kid Rock as a transformational person. He himself, he was involved with Pamela Anderson, and he's had all these personal challenges in his life. Mm-hmm. But he's kind of veered over a period of about 10 or 15 years. And he's a huge Trump guy now. He's, he shows up with Trump a lot. He's put himself, but he was always an independent. He never depended upon the record companies. You know that? He has his own label. He does his own thing. Right. And so I don't listen to his music because it's not my thing.
Right.
But I will say that he was always moving in an independent thinking direction. Mm-hmm. Now, there's only two kinds of people. There's people that are people of the status quo and of the mass formation, or there are people who are outside the mass formation, thinking for themselves no matter what, even if it's right or wrong.
Yeah, very true.
All right,
but
I have an...
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say,
I want to hear.
Even people that maybe didn't have the opportunity or the means to become very, self-made or independent can still be independent-minded and still.
Can I make a point?
Yes.
Everyone is self-made, but if you're made from the stuff of others, you're just like them. You've done it, though. You've allowed it. Somehow you've been molded and shaped and accepted the imprint. So we're all self-made, believe it or not. At some
To a
level,
point, yes.
we make choices about whether or not we feel comfortable. I'm seeing a lot more. Carl Jung
Mm-hmm.
talks about, and also what's his name, Alan Watts, who was a very close philosopher to what my dad taught. He talks about being independent. He says, when you think for yourself, you're always alone because you're not comfortable blending in to the things that other people accept or believe. Carl Jung said the same thing. There's a lot of pain in being an independent person. See, there's a pain, but that pain cannot be filled by the presence of ordinary people. It can only be filled with the presence of something extraordinary, and that is our relationship with God. So people that end up alone in their lives, oftentimes they're marching to a different drummer, they're hearing a different music, however you want to describe it, and they can't allow themselves to get comfortable. Like the people, I heard that it costs like up to $2,500 to get a seat at the super. Can you imagine the average working person spending that kind of money just to go
No.
see a football game?
Mm-mm. No.
So there are those of us who, no matter what, if somebody gave us a ticket, they'd go, I'm not going to that here. I'm going to sell it. I wouldn't have wasted my time or energy going to see a football game. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, in this world, there are, things that people put their energy into. Sports is a big one. And I'm not anti-sport. I mean, let's say there was a huge surfing competition and you had a chance to go see that. You'd probably want to go because that's your thing. You like it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem
gone
with
to
that.
contests, but
Yeah.
only convenience.
Right,
There's no
right.
way I'm ever going to get a plane ticket to Brazil or
Oh, yeah.
Hawaii even.
Yeah.
I just don't care
Yeah,
that much.
yeah.
But yeah, I like surfing, but it's not where I draw my identity from.
Well, that's the thing. And if you, your identity comes from the culture, then you want to do all of the things that the culture offers you.
I'll tell you something interesting about that analogy, though, Jan, is that I don't know, 2 years ago, I was able to attend an event in my hometown where I grew up.
Mm.
And it's weird because I saw people that I hadn't seen for 50 years.
Wow.
And the truth be known, I'm the only one of the people that I ran into that day that had evolved. They were all still essentially the same people that I left behind 50 years ago. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they all patted me on the back and said, "You were always a great servant." They remembered me for the things that were familiar to them.
Yeah.
Which was, I was a good surfer. But it's interesting because even in those days, even in my surfing, I was somewhat of a pioneer in my own way. I mean, the guys that do things today are so far beyond anything that we ever imagined. But
Right.
my point is that they knew that I was on a different trajectory than them. And so when they saw me, it's like, "Hey, Dave," and people will remember. So in other words, you're making a mark on life one way or another.
Oh, totally.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
We're all influencers. That's the truth.
Yes, that is true. Well, what else were you going to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh,
interrupt
no,
you.
I didn't have anything. We're just rolling along here.
All right, I got another clip here. Roy talking about awareness is protection.
Maybe another question, but this should have led to, so what do I do?
When it comes to those disturbing thoughts,
And what are the disturbing thoughts? What shape do they take?
they're like paranoia sometimes.
Give me the shape of one.
For example, I think if I would leave a soda somewhere on a counter, somebody might put something in it.
2/3 of the human race are like that. What it is, you have lost your awareness and you are dependent upon your animal awareness to protect you. That's what superstition is all about. When you lose the natural way of seeing everything as it is, you see good people as good people and they're good. And you see those who pretend to be good and you see right through it. But the very fact that you're conscious of it is the protection all of itself. Even though you're surrounded with liars and cheats, you could be in the middle of them and feel unaffected.
See, again, it goes back to this idea that you're either comfortable in the environment of people that are just the ordinary people, or you're not. I was never comfortable in that environment. I tried to be. I did my best to be comfortable in and around, and part of that never worked for me.
Don't we, most of us have a sense of discomfort of something's missing in this life? I was talking to somebody the other day about, well, you and I were talking last week about your identity and where it comes from. But I used to love watching this show called Long Lost Family. Have you ever seen it?
I have.
Where people who were adopted or in, these foster homes, and even if they got adopted, they just wanted to know who their real parent was and where they came from. And it was just like this strong desire, and they would search. And most of the time, they would get answers of why. Occasionally, a person had no interest. The parent didn't want to know. But most of the time, they would find the backstory of why the person had to give up the baby. But there was such a completion and relief to meet this parent that you could see that you looked sort of like you. All of a sudden, you belonged somewhere. And I believe we are all that way to a certain degree with our Father in heaven. That, we have mothers and fathers here on earth, mostly families that are, out of whack. Dysfunctional.
Yeah.
But the understanding the true Father in heaven, that's where you belong, and getting into that spirit, that Holy Spirit, it's like, and I've heard so many people who have life after death experiences, who when they experience heaven, even for a moment, they say, it felt like home. That felt like home. And that is what we're all longing for, is that feeling of I'm home. I belong somewhere.
So the anxiety that most people experience has to do with a disconnection from something. It could be a disconnection from themselves to begin with. And I think that's where it begins, that you feel like something's missing in your life. And that something that's missing is actually your true identity. And that's a hard thing to sort through, because the average person, I remember I had a friend who picked me up to go surfing one day, and he had to go home, and his grandfather had adopted him because both his parents were killed in a car accident. And as he was leaving the house, he was really mean to his grandfather.
Yeah.
I mean, just abusive. And I said to him, he got in the car, and I said, how can you be so mean to your grand? He takes care of you. He loves you. He goes, that's just who I am. And I'll never forget that, because the average person, he was apparently years and years after that, he was a heavy pot smoker. He was a person who was absolutely an escape artist from his own life, but I'm just saying, the average person kind of tries to find a way to get comfortable with that other identity. But so when we come back, I'm going to start playing this audio of Roy talking about understanding the Holy Communion. Okay. Quick break here, FHU.com. It's a perfect segue, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Yeah, we'll be right back. Okay. Any comments?
So are we going to
chat?
I just totally forgot. Are we going into the fourth segment or the first segment of the next hour?
This is the fourth. We're
going into the fourth.
We'll start it here.
Okay. Yeah. There's a few.
Spill it over.
There's a few things up there in the chat.
Okay. All right. In 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome back. And Jan, anything interesting you want to mention from the chat?
Well, let's see. Someone here says, belonging. That's why kids join gangs. That's right. Because it all starts with the family. Your first identity starts in your family. If you've got a pretty functional family and you feel loved, there, then you retain you have a certain something that's not totally screwed up. But, there are people who had such horrible families, David, they can't even imagine what it is like to feel loved or appreciated. So it does all start there. And that is why they join the gangs. That becomes their family. So, you could say the Bible is about long lost family, because the children of God were seduced away from the loving Father, and now they joined the gang. The gang leader led them astray. And what happened? The Father sent his Son to sacrifice to get all of his children back. It's a beautiful story. It really is.
Well, it's the only story that really matters.
It really is. Absolutely.
All the other stories are a derivative.
Yep.
The hero's journey,
Yep.
I'm just reading something, though, that I think is really interesting before I start this other audio. Genesis 3 offers the account of humanity's first transgression. The serpent tempted Eve by questioning God's command about eating from the forbidden tree. Genesis 3, 1 through 5. Eve desiring wisdom. And I say, I've never heard it put that way.
Yes.
Did Eve desire wisdom? Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, doubt creates a domino effect of uncertainty. I mean, that's basically the word doubt means you're unclear, you're uncertain about things. And so the idea of uncertainty begins when you entertain the wrong ideas. It begins to draw you away from the light, and it begins to draw you away from truth toward the deception from the deceptor, and your life spirals down into confusion and suffering.
And guess what? He was offering her something she already had. They already had the wisdom and in obedience to the Creator. That's wise. That's a wise thing to do, because you know that in him is life and where you came from. So he had to represent it in a way that, no, there's something outside of this Father that's better for you. See? So I guess it's that innate desire to want to be more, to want to be equal or above the Father. That's how Satan fell. He wanted to be raised up equal or greater than the Father. And that's the message he brought to man. See? And if he was going to be separated and thrown down, he sure as hell wanted man to be with him. He didn't, you know what I mean? He didn't want man to be. Go ahead.
Well, just what occurred to me was I was watching some various interviews of people who knew what was going on in the Epstein world. One of the things this person, it was actually Eric Prince, if I'm not mistaken, of Blackwater, as a protection agency that protects all the presidents. Anyway, he was a special forces, or he was one of those guys. But he said the reason why these people traffic and want children is because it's the closest thing to God.
You know,
want to violate it because it's so close to God.
Definitely, that occurred to me before, that the hatred that Satan has for God is so great. If he can't overcome him, he can at least hurt him. How many times have you heard about parents using their children to hurt the other parent? They're not caring about the child. I don't think
I've ever heard one that wasn't related to that.
Yeah. Well,
it's like that's what they do. It's almost reflexive.
You know what? My parents got divorced, and thank God they did not do that.
Mm.
They had an amicable divorce, and they didn't pit us against one against the other. So it does happen.
Mm.
But
But
Satan,
by influence, they see one way or another by influence,
Mhm.
by example, I guess I should say. I want to make a point though, because I'm reading from this and it says the immediate result after Eve ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a drastic change, not only for Adam and Eve, but for all of creation. Now, I've heard my dad talk a little bit about this, and we'll get into it with the Holy Communion, and that's Genesis 3:7. Their eyes were open to their nakedness, producing shame instead of innocence.
yes.
And this is where the dark side wants everyone to live. The dark side wants us all to take, and this, to me, shame is part of the mark of the beast.
Mm.
It's part of what brands you as something that is owned by the dark side. Shame. Because so go ahead. Your
Well, I was
thoughts.
going to say that what you were saying about the children is, I do believe that when a person allows evil inside of them, that evil enjoys and lives off of destroying innocence. And that is
Destruction
what
is the devil's creation.
it's painful even to think about,
I
because
know.
it hurts. It hurts in your heart. And that's what it
Yeah.
wants to do, is hurt the Father.
We are going to take a quick break and we'll continue with another hour. Visit FHU.com. There's that hour.
There goes that hour.
Okay.
Okay.
There it is. It's gone. All right. In 3, 2, 1. All right. It is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me, David Masters, today. The deep dive around the Bad Bunny. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Bad Bunny, what you
Bad
gonna
Bunny?
do? He took
Bad Epstein, bad people, bad
Schumer, bad Pelosi, bad AOC, you
bad
name it.
people. Bad girls.
people.
Bad girls. Lots of bad
Oh, yeah.
girls out there too. You know, recruiting for the cause.
Yeah. I do have some audio of Roy Masters. So we were talking about the way home, in a manner of speaking, and when we start to identify that we're not there. In other words, the Garden of Eden. Let's go back to that for a moment. Was the home of Adam and Eve, the home of humans, of humanity, and look at how. And we're talking about, relationships and being an example, but look at what happens where the home is like the Genesis. It's like Genesis.
It is.
Right?
Adam and Eve all over again, right?
It's a micro example.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And when they were removed from their home, I think
they were homeless.
They were homeless, right?
Yeah.
And they were cast out. And I have read accounts in the lost books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden of the suffering that they went through.
Right.
I mean, the ultimate suffering of God removing them and putting a cherub at the entrance to Eve, which, again, isn't part of paradise, a state of mind. So in their relationship with their creator, they had this God-oriented state of mind. But then when they were seduced and started to contemplate and consider the offer of the dark side, that started to dissolve that relationship with.
Yes.
That's why God said, "Where are you?" when he was walking through the garden. They used to hang out with God, right? Their creator. So this whole idea of not feeling at home, but it's essential for the recovery of the self, because if you feel that you're at home, and I know I've heard people say, "Oh, I feel like I belong." There's actually a song, "A Place Where I Belong." I think everybody's looking for that place, and they're looking for that person that makes them feel at some level that they belong, whether they belong to each other or
Yeah.
they belong to a group. And I want to make a point though about people, because there are two sides of the mass formation. And like, I'm one of those people who is, there's something about the scripture that talks about being hungry and thirsty for righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. I don't know if it's righteousness' sake. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but so I will sometimes go to a local church because I like the pastor. He's a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's been through absolute hell in his own life, and he gives good sermons. So, but I don't like all of the trappings of the environment. I will sit out by myself out in the entry. I don't want to hear the so-called praise music. It bothers me because I don't believe that that's really what praising God and worshiping God is. Because Jesus talked about worshiping in spirit and in truth. It didn't talk about music. But anyway,
Well, they did
I just
also sing hymns and things, but
I get that, and I know
yeah.
that the angels do that in heaven.
Yeah.
But man, this music, I mean, there's some music is better than others.
Yeah,
Let's put
I
it
agree.
that way.
I agree.
But the people who can get trapped in a mass formation of reassurance and comfort, they, in a way, they can be no different than those who are trapped on the dark side of that equation. Rather than being at a rock concert or whatever, Bad Bunny concert, they're in a Christian concert, and they've got a concept based around what it is that they're being told, rather than having a sense of knowing for themselves. And I just want to make that distinction because, know the truth and it shall make you free. And of course, there are many avenues from which truth is delivered to every one of us. But I'm just saying that the mainstream, and I've heard a lot of preachers complain because there's a lot of preachers that mainly focus on the law of attraction. God wants you to have everything you ever wanted, but God doesn't want anybody to perish even. But at the same time, there's one thing, and I said this, I think last time we were talking, God wants one thing from all of us. This is the first thing that matters. He doesn't want you pretending to be him. That's one thing that God wants from everybody. But without realizing it, many times people do play God in their lives.
And they don't
lives
even
of others.
know that's what they're doing.
They don't even know they're doing
the
it.
God of self. They don't even realize
Yes.
it. But you mentioned
right.
about the cherubs with the flaming swords outside of the entrance to the garden. And that
Yes.
sounds like so cruel, but you know what? That was compassion, because the next thing it says, we can't let them be in here because then they will eat of the tree of life and live forever as sinners. So he had to separate them from the tree of life, and now death has to come into it. But in that separation, coming out of the garden, now there's a chance for return and repentance.
Through the suffering.
Through the suffering. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, let me start playing this audio, otherwise I won't get to it. This is Understanding the Holy Communion. And for people interested, it's K4995.
Now, Larry, we want to talk about communion.
I have to say that I enjoyed the blabber there. That was very interesting.
Thank you, David. He's very verbal.
Yes, he can have his own show.
Yes, he has had his own show. Listen, I like what the Catholics do. They have not what the bishops and the naughty boys do, but the point is the Catholics have more of what Jesus. That Holy Communion is a very interesting ritual.
I'd like to just frame this just a little bit.
Okay.
I'm Roman Catholic myself. I'm almost 65 years old.
Yes.
So I was born, raised, educated, indoctrinated, whatever, with the Catholic teachings and beliefs. Now I am Catholic today by choice, as opposed to
that's
being a child in
that's very good.
So I'm Catholic by choice. My interpretation, or what I glean from what the Catholic Church believes, is, and maybe other churches do too, I don't think so, but I may be wrong, that the body and the wine and the bread are literally not figuratively, literally changed into the blood and into the body of Jesus Christ. And when we partake in that by drinking the blood and drinking the bread, that literally becomes a part of us, if you will. It's like medicine.
I'm in full agreement, but it's a matter of how it's done, because you cannot do this mechanically. You cannot walk up, partake of a wafer and a little bit of wine and go off and say a few Hail Marys. That is not good enough. That is a ritual, and rituals are hypnotic. You don't want a hypnotic Catholic. You said yourself, you're now a Catholic by choice, but before you were by indoctrination. I understand that. You also may be a Catholic by thinking that you choose, because you don't know how to divest yourself of the indoctrination, so you accept it.
So again, see, the idea is that everything that is of God can also be turned and weaponized against people if they don't understand what they're dealing with. And I think that a lot of the ministers are well-meaning people, and I think a lot of people are well-meaning, but they just don't have a depth of understanding because they're too willing to accept the influences of the outside world of authority figures. What do you think about that?
Well, if a person who's in charge of a church, a minister or so, truly is submitted in his heart, good things can come through to his congregation. And I know we've got just a second here, but your dad was talking about the Holy Communion and how it's done. Yeah. And, I think I'll comment on the other side. We're getting a little close.
All right, that's fine. Yeah. A quick mention of FHU.com where you find the Be Still and Know exercise. And it really is a realignment in the moment, living in the now, to have your relationship with God at FHU.com. We'll be right back. All right. Any comments you want to mention?
Not right at this second.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right. So the Holy Communion makes a lot of sense to me as well, because we need to be reminded. I mean, it's so there are things that will erode our sense and our grasp on reality. All day long, every day, we are bombarded. It's almost like we're sandblasted, micro sandblasted with the stuff of life and the stuff of the world. And after a while, it starts to peel away and especially when you are, unfortunately, a lot of people are in a struggle, like with various, whether it's food or, distraction or self-doubt, whatever it may, there's 1,000 things we can be distracted by. But we do need to be reminded. And what I like what my dad said about not just doing the thing because it's a ritual, but doing it with a higher sense of purpose. Go ahead.
So the Holy Communion, the reason it makes sense is because, the first sin was eating of the forbidden fruit. Now you are eating of the holiness. And because everything in this world that's offered to us is sin, whether it's what you're watching or listening to or what you're eating. So Holy Communion, he said, my body and my blood, you must drink my blood, eat my, body. And that freaked everybody out. But he said, these are spiritual things I'm talking about. So basically, what you ingest is very important. The Holy Communion is great. I would say reading the scriptures. If your heart is to seek the truth and to seek communion with the Father, and that's really what you want, then you read his words and it draws you closer to him. Yes, we all want Holy Communion with the Father. And that is why the gift that he sent is the Holy Spirit. And that was like Jesus' last words, is that when I leave, the Father's going to send you this gift. David, is there a better gift than the Holy Spirit, which is the presence of the Father? Isn't that the completely the reverse of what happened in the garden, where they were they lost the presence of the Father continuously? So through his Son now you are all able to have the presence of the Father. The Holy Spirit, and I like to call it right now the Spirit of holiness, because it reminds you that when you receive it, the Spirit of holiness is what will make you holy, not your own ability, your own concepts, your own ability to follow laws. The Spirit of holiness, welcome it in instead of the unholy spirit that is offered to you every day in the world.
So in 1 Corinthians 11, 24 and 25, and this could be a whole book, and it probably is somewhere, the Apostle Paul reiterates, and when he had given thanks, he broke the bread and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." See, so this whole idea of the new covenant, this was the end of the power of sin. It was the end of it. It was over. And the devil was he thought he was so smart, like Bad Bunny. He thought he could just parade Jesus around like a trophy. This is how stupid evil is. Evil is not smart. It's wily. It's cunning, but it's not smart.
Yeah.
The devil thought he could own the Son of God and take him down into, what do they call
Sheol.
it? Hell?
Yeah.
Sheol.
Yeah.
They thought they could just, control the Son of God.
Well,
God will not be mocked.
Yes. And what's so interesting to me, which I learned in the previous years, was like aha experience, the painting of the Last Supper and stuff and all that. I was always like, okay, the Last Supper, where the last night before he was with his apostles. But what I didn't realize is it was a Passover meal. And the Passover in Judaism was when, of course, they would commemorate being freed from Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, and everything on the table was to remind them of everything that God did in bringing them out of slavery, how he blessed the Jewish people. Let's not forget. And so I don't know the meaning of everything on the table, but now he says, this is going to represent my blood, and this bread is going to represent my body. So basically, he's taking the Passover Seder and showing where now he is the center of it. Isn't that amazing? That is just so interesting to me.
Well, and again, when we talk about the new covenant, this is like tearing up the old one. It's like, you're no longer bound by this anymore. Take it, throw it away, put it in the fire. It's a new set of laws that govern
in the
human
old
nature.
one. The old one was, here's all these laws, and here's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
In the new one, you're not going to disobey necessarily, the 10 Commandments, because if you receive the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of holiness, now that Spirit is going to take up the burden of doing good, of being holy. You don't have to try of your own efforts to be holy now.
Yeah. And another point is, he was talking about the Holy Communion, not just, see, the Old Testament, the old rules were all about sacrificing. So you're always going to have to sacrifice anyway, but it was a physical sacrifice. It was a lamb, or it was a tithe, or whatever it is that you were sacrificing, or, but see, so he made the ultimate sacrifice for every human being. And so this was the transcendent sacrifice. It wasn't just about obeying the laws anymore. It was
Correct.
the ushering in of a whole new set of metaphysical laws that apply now through forgiveness.
It was all related. And the
Yeah.
central theme of sacrifice every year was simply to say, blood has to be shed here for you to be forgiven. And now
Yes.
that Jesus, the Son of God, has done
It
it,
was all symbolic of his coming
Yes.
eventually. Quick break
Yes.
here. FHU.com. Be still and know God has told us, he's given us the key. Okay. I think I'll come back with a clip of Roy talking about the Holy Communion.
okay?
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
You accept it. But now my Sunday morning conversations, it's called Eat and Drink This, Remembering Me. I prepared the person to drink the wine in the sense of what Jesus meant. Eat this, remembering me. Well, what happens is when you drink that wine with a special mindset, it's a very simple thing. Something just like what you said occurs as the wine goes down into your tummy and starts to percolate. You know how quickly wine does. Percolate through every cell in your body. If it's done properly, it becomes a communion. It becomes a literal reconnection to God. Because the first thing in original sin, Adam ate the food forgetting him. And he woke up with remembrance of himself. That's where ego came in. And so a transformation took place when he ate the forbidden fruit, and he transferred the whole his mind and body became loyal to the source of the temptation. And it's been that way ever since. And that is the reason why Jesus said, eat this, remembering me, for this is my blood. Because literally, the minute you start to eat it with that understanding in mind, something does really happen. And you'll hear the cry, the sobbing, all of the traumas pouring out with explanations of every move, every thought that the lady had in her life, and see them disappearing, and see the difference, that the new person that emerged from that. I've known this lady for 30 years, but never have I seen this kind of thing with her. She's always been a decent person, but all the life she's tucked everything down inside her, and she does the best thing she can do. She does the best she can, like a lot of people. But the minute she drank that wine, she saw all the connections, and they all broke. And suddenly she became transformed back to how God wanted her to be. And now she's doing very well.
Is that what would be classified as an exorcism?
No, it was a little transference of loyalties from the world, from her own struggle to be the good person she's trying to be, and the frustration of not being good enough, to the effortless way of being, so that for that day forward, the eating and the drinking, if you're eating bread or eating your dinner or whatever that you're eating, or drinking a glass of wine, whatever it might be, it keeps reinforcing it, so that eventually you develop into the nature of Christ. The nature of God develops in you, and with his character. So literally, in a manner of speaking, it's happening exactly as the Catholic Church says, but it has to be done in a very special setting with a special mindset for it to be healing and magical, and literally magical. And there's healing involved.
You can do to prepare your mind or your heart for this?
I've done it with smoking. Have you ever listened to my program where a person says, I can't stop smoking?
Yes.
You know why a person smokes? Because they smoke as an opiate to calm themselves down, to forget the conflict, so they can go into a business meeting or be upset and they take a cigarette and smoke to take away the conflict between what they're becoming through being upset and what they could be, represented by their conscience, which is the conflict. So when they smoke, they're actually setting aside their conscience and they're anesthetizing their conscience. However, so I set the stage. I said, do you know how to be aware of yourself? Look at your hand. And look at your hand. Suddenly it doesn't look like your hand anymore. She said, yeah, that's strange. It looks like somebody else's hand. I said, now you're being objective. Now pick up the cigarette, put it in your mouth and take a puff. Light it up, take a puff, and see that what you're doing is doing that, forgetting what you are, what you're becoming. See? And so, do you see, it worked the other way around. He or she, because it's happened several times on the program, suddenly become aware.
Wow. Do this remembering because you did the other thing and it caused you to forget.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. He says you have to do it in a very special way. And, when you think about Jesus in the scriptures walking along in a crowd and a woman touches his robe and becomes healed, even though other people were bumping against him, they weren't being healed. It is the mindset. He said,
what did he say to her?
Your faith that made you well. And he said that often. So the mindset to me is the faith and the belief in the truth of God. Yes.
Yeah. A point which is super important. He felt something happen when she touched the hem of his garment.
The life go out of him, the life force. He felt.
No, I don't think it was that. I think that he was like a light socket.
Mm-hmm.
And there was energy that came out of him, and he was just simply aware of that transfer, and he wanted to turn to find who had gotten the transfer.
Right. That's right.
I think that's what happened.
It is.
Because there's nothing, you can't take anything away from God.
Well,
from the Son of God. You can't
agreed.
take anything
He was not
away.
diminished by it, but he felt the transfer. And Jesus, like I said, many other people were around him, and that transfer wasn't happening.
That wasn't happening.
You have to be at the right moment. You have to be ready. So, and you were talking about people in the church doing for this and that. And we don't know what's happening inside of each person in the room.
No, you can't.
It's a very individual journey. Jesus came.
The truth is that you've seen amazing transformations in just everyday people.
Yeah.
Even if they haven't done things just right, still there's a super positive side effect of doing the right thing.
That's right. So what I was going to say is Jesus came, he offered, but not everybody did partake. Mm-hmm. And that is the way it is in the world. It's offered out there. The truth is offered in many different places, and the people who are seeking will find it. And everybody's ready at different times. So, that's the way it is. We don't know what's happening in the church filled with people. There may be some people there that are having amazing transformations. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Depends on
I would rather see people, even in the most superficial way, be involved, because there's always a potential that something can awaken in them. If they're involved in some kind of a church there are a lot of churches that have these people who try to infuse that juice, that electric feeling in them. Yeah.
There's everything is out there. Everything is out there. But I just hear these stories sometimes of the person who is just ready. They go in and somehow the message is talking to them, and it's boom, the moment the moment of truth happens.
There's one more clip here of Roy. I said, how's it taste? They said, oh, it tastes awful. I said, always did. It's poison, You're doing this to forget. What's wrong with you? This is a false salvation. And all of a sudden, the truth resonates. Well, how I say it to them in the end, I finish off my discussion with them by saying, you cannot do anything wrong when you're aware. And so if you're willing to be aware, the first thing you're aware of is your own fault. So the first important thing is to know that of yourself you can do nothing. But if you take that communion in the way that I suggest, new suggestion, or eating that piece of bread, just a piece of bread they've eaten, appear to be blessed just because I gave it to them. I don't even make a ritual out of it. I said, here, it's from my hand to them and from my heart to their heart, literally awaken them to be conscious of a ritual that is no longer a ritual, it is a reality. And then that reality continues because they have to eat. There's something about food and drink that carries with it a curse. And the communion changes that. You mingle truth with these words, the kind of words that I'm saying right now, the setting up the stage for a person to become aware of what they're doing when they're eating and drinking, rather than just the opposite. You eat like a pig, and the minute you get upset, you eat and stuff yourself with food, and you're 500 pounds overweight. That's eating to forget what's wrong with you. But that only reinforces what is wrong with you, and you get worse and worse. The worse you get, the more you want to eat. The worse and worse, but the more you eat, the worse you become, because it reinforces the worse. See, now we reverse this. In a manner of speaking, there's a pure art or science to it, a Christian science to it.
Yeah.
I just want to make a point about what he was saying, though, about handing somebody the bread, because in a Catholic mass, they distribute the wafers and the wine, but this is all in the setting of the environment in the church, and all of the, what they call the Holy Roman Catholic Church, with all of the symbolism and everything else. It's like, that's just another part of the symbolism when it's done in that kind of a setting, and it's reinforced by the environment. But when it's actually given by somebody who becomes believable, however believable they are, it replaces the need for the environmental reinforcement, because you've got the real person there who is offering you the relationship with Christ. The person is handing you over to Christ, right?
Well, yes, but in a sense, it's not even about the person that's handing it. It's about you believing that this is from God. You know what I mean? It's not about the person.
But unfortunately, in the world that we live in, I was watching something about trust. Nothing else can happen when you have no trust. So to be trustworthy, I mean, in a lot of these Christian songs, he is worthy, he is worthy. Well, if you don't deem a person to have the worthiness to trust the things that they're telling you, that's a barrier right there. So I'm just making a point, because sometimes, I used to hear people complain that my dad attributed certain things to himself, but how else do you describe certain things unless you give a self-attribution of some sort? Like, I was there, I gave you the bread. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Some interesting comments here. I'll just read one real quick.
We have 10 seconds. Go ahead.
People are starved for virtue. That's where you get wokeness, the devil's virtue.
That's good.
Because it said virtue went out of Jesus, virtue or power to the woman. Anyway.
Quick break here, FHU.com. Be still and know. I'll be right back with Jan. All right, last segment. I got one more clip.
Okay.
Short one, too. It's only... Can't even tell how long it is.
It's very hard to describe, but easy to do.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back. Talking about the idea that, and I want to make a point too about family, because see, the world, look at what the Simpsons did to the poor father in the story. Made him look like just an idiot, Homer Simpson.
Yep.
He was the laughing stock, and he was so stupid. And so the idea is that the world and the dark side wants to create a circumstance in which your trust goes to the one who makes you doubt.
Yeah.
And this is a natural automatic transfer, right? And so I'm just saying that, in relationships and in families, the trust factor is enormous, because the little children, they look up to their parents as if parents are gods, because they're representations of God. So
they are God to them as a child. They couldn't live without them taking care of them. So I don't think fathers realize the gravity of their responsibility and position, because however the relationship a person has with their father is, for a very big part of your life, if not the whole life, transferred upon what you think of the Father in heaven. So it is very, very important. And fathers have been made to believe that their role isn't important. And they don't realize that is why the agenda of the enemy in these cartoons and shows denigrate the fathers. And as long as you denigrate the father, that it bleeds over to God. It all bleeds over to God.
You know, I want to just make one point about our president, President Donald John Trump. You know what I've heard more than any other comment, aside from bad, Orange Man bad? He did what he said he was going to do.
Yes. Very
End
true.
of that story right there.
So true.
And as a matter of fact, people said he's the first person in politics that actually ever did what he said he was going to do.
Right.
So it's even more important because he was a leader of fulfillment of whatever it is he said he was going to do. Again,
Absolutely.
that's the trust factor. Now, let me play one more clip and we're done with this. Here it comes. Let's see here.
It's very hard to describe, but easy to do. Ladies and gentlemen, surely you understand, as I was talking to my friend about this communion, you see that you're taking communion every day, but with the wrong side of the force. Every time you put something in your mouth, you get too much more pleasure out of it than you should. That's a drug. Food is the most dangerous drug of all. It could also be life-giving. It could save you from seeing how wrong you are, from being saved. Food can do that. Food has embedded with it from generation to generation a suggestion, a curse. And when that curse is lifted by eating it in the right way, you have a new life.
Well, there it is. That was Roy on his 80th birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
Were you playing that music?
That was in the that was in the clip.
Okay.
The end of the show.
Okay.
But yeah, it was 20 years ago that he was talking about this. 20 years ago.
Well, it makes me think back to the garden before they fell and all of the beautiful fruits and foods that God created for them. And I'm sure it must have been always known these are gifts from the Father. They weren't forgetting when they were eating, and He created it for their enjoyment. Right? So there's nothing wrong with enjoying something, but everything can be abused.
If you think about the definition of a paradise state of being, it's got to be very much like heaven itself. Right? Remember me this day in paradise and so on. And I think that maybe there were things for these two people in Eden that were very much like whatever it is that, the eye has not seen, the ear has not heard. What God has in store for those. But they lost that in their transgression. They lost that paradise state. They lost all of the gifts that God gave them in that paradise state.
I wonder
and
what's harder, being exposed and living in perfection and losing it, and being, as we said before, homeless and out on the street, and then, or being born into this world it's sort of dim and not remembering or knowing what it was like. It's interesting.
I guess the simple answer is that we only have one choice to make. See, they had two. They had a binary choice, right or wrong. Actually, we only have one choice, and that is
I think they only had one choice too.
No, he actually gave them. He gave them the choice between. If he hadn't have given it to them, they wouldn't have had it. And so it was a two-edged sword, a double-edged sword.
But everything they had was available to them except for the one choice to go, to rebel. And ours is the opposite. We're born into rebellion. And we have one choice to return.
Yeah. Exactly. That's right. And that's the end of this show. Your last word.
Well, I appreciate everybody for their comments. We didn't read too many, but yeah, it's return. We need to return, and he made a way for us to return. And I like what your dad said about the wine and the bread. It's all there for us.
And look what we made out of Bad Bunny. And that's the end of
right.
the show, Jan. Thanks for being here.
Right.
And
Thank you, David.
FHU.com is where you find out more. The end.
All right. The end.
Yeah, you can take Bad Bunny and turn it into something
I know.
so ridiculous.